Hi, I'm back. I was gone for a while because Maddie and I welcomed our second son, Lachlan, into the world back in May, but now I'm back. So it's time to talk about mortality. So holding a newborn is weird because sometimes it's like the most centering, mindful activity that just like locks me into the present. And other times it suplexes my brain into the future, thinking about all the things we could or should be doing to set up our kids for a good life. And one of the things that inevitably comes to mind is, what am I going to leave for my kids? Which is a pretty morbid topic. But maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe we don't need to wait until we die to pass wealth on to our kids. In fact, maybe it's better if we don't. I'm Ben, and this is Sketchy Advice. There's a reason I've never talked about inheritances on this channel, and that's because I feel a little icky talking about what is most likely a deep personal loss in terms of a financial windfall. But then I read Bill Perkins' book, Die with Zero. There's a lot in there. I'm kind of thinking I might want to do a book review on it. I've never done a book review on this channel, but if that is something you'd like to see me do, let me know in the comments, and I'll hop right to it, or not, if you don't want me to do it. But Bill thinks we're all thinking about money kind of backwards. Most of us try to accumulate as much money as possible before we die, but he thinks your ideal goal should be to die with zero, or as close to zero as you can get without hitting zero before you die. Why? The point of earning money is to spend it on your well-being and the well-being of the people you care about. And you earned that money, so you should try to squeeze as much joy and goodness from it as possible. And that means trying to spend every dollar you earn. Now, there are a lot of things to be said about this, but one of the most common objections is, what about the kids? If you die with zero, then you're leaving nothing for your children. Isn't that selfish? And he says, yes, that would be selfish. But the solution isn't to keep accumulating a massive nest egg to pass on. It's giving your kids money while you are still alive. Let's build the case here. Most people don't receive an inheritance until they're at least in their 50s. And that's great, because it means your parents lived a long life. But it is an odd time to get a windfall. Think about it. If you're in your 50s, you're probably pretty established in terms of your career and your living situation. And if you have kids, they are most likely grown and out of the house. But let's imagine a different scenario. What if, instead of receiving that money in your 50s, your parents gave it to you when you turned 30? I asked my coworkers what kind of things they would do if they were in this situation, and they said things like putting money toward a down payment, paying off student loans or some other debt, beefing up their emergency fund, or investing it toward retirement. And let's really think about the impact of that. $30,000 in your retirement fund, nothing to sneeze at in your 50s, but in your 30s? Save for paying off debt. Yeah, you definitely save on interest in your 50s, but it's many more years of freed up income if you pay off that debt in your 30s. And that feels especially meaningful when, according to this 2022 CNBC survey, 81% of student loan borrowers under the age of 35 said that debt has prompted them to delay big personal goals like buying a home, saving for retirement, or having kids. And that's partly what I find so fascinating about all of this. It's that timing might actually matter more than the amount given. When we consider the long-term impacts of getting the money earlier, $30,000 at 30 might actually be more impactful and life-changing than $60,000 at 60. Maddie and I have actually experienced this firsthand. When we got married, we had $30,000 of student loan debt, which is thankfully well below the national average for two college grads, but it was still a big number. We paid off that debt in 3 years instead of 10. That was partly because we were intentional and we made sacrifices, but it's also because of a wedding gift of gold that we received from my grandparents that we used to pay off $13,000 of student loans in one fell swoop. We have been debt-free for 6 years now, something that many people much older than me have yet to experience. And a big reason for that is the generosity that we received when we were just getting started. And hey, there's one more benefit I forgot to mention. You get to see the impact of your generosity. Researchers like Elizabeth Dunn and Michael Norton have shown that giving money away is one of the happiest ways we can spend our money. And that joy is especially potent when we can actually see the impact of our gift. It's one thing to give $100 to some big nonprofit and hope you're helping. It's another to see your kid graduate from college with a degree you helped them pay for, even if it's in philosophy. Sorry, mom and dad. Now, I'm not saying that what you're currently doing is wrong, or that you shouldn't leave money to your kids when you're gone, or anything like that. I'm just encouraging you to reflect. Is your current plan for passing your wealth onto your kids, or whoever, actually the one you want to go with? Or is it just the default setting? And you might be thinking, well, I don't have a big amount of money to pass on when they turn 30. And that's totally fair, especially if your kids are already approaching or past 30. But if you're like me, with a couple of munchkins toddling around, this is where things get fun. For 2 decades here at YNAB, we've been blowing people's minds by showing them how much more manageable big expenses or savings goals are when you just break them down into monthly chunks. And the great thing about having tiny tots right now is that you have a lot of time to save that money. Giving your daughter $10,000 on her next birthday is probably not something most of us can do. But her 18th birthday or her 30th birthday? That's a different story. I'm going to show you what I mean with a few examples that Maddie and I are currently kicking around with our boys. For reference, Knox is 2 and Lachlan is 0. He's like 8 weeks old. One idea we like is giving our kids a big magical experience when they hit a significant birthday. So when Knox turns 10, if he says he wants to go see the biggest ball of twine in the world, I'll say, do you mean the biggest community rolled ball of twine? Because pack your bags, we're going to Cawker City, Kansas. And then we're hopping a flight and we're going to see the biggest individual rolled ball of twine in Darwin, Minnesota. And then we'll stop in Lake Nebegamin, Wisconsin on the way home to see the heaviest ball of twine before making a final pit stop in Branson, Missouri to see the biggest nylon ball of twine. Those are memories that will last a lifetime. So let's say we want to set aside $3,000 for each boy when they turn 10. For Knox, that's $34 a month. For Lachlan, it's $25. How about a financial head start of $10,000 when they graduate high school at 18? For Lachlan, it's $46.50. For Knox, it's $54 a month. If $10,000 sounds extravagant, we can cut it in half, make it $5,000. Now you're talking $23 for Locke and $27 for Knox. Or maybe we keep it at $10,000, but we wait until they're a little more responsible. Say $22. That's $43 for Knox and $38 a month for Lachlan. How about a real big one? Let's say we want to actually gift $30,000 on their 30th birthdays. For Knox, that's
$91 a month.
And for Lachlan, that's
$83.
Of course, how exactly you might want to do this is up to you. You probably want to put it in some vehicle that will combat inflation and maybe even gain returns, like bonds or CDs or something more specific, like a 529 account. But I'll leave that to you or your financial planner to figure out. My point is, when you start when they're itty bitty, this isn't that much money. Not only that, but you're going to get used to it. It's just going to be normal. So if you're curious, maybe grab a calculator, or you could do this in the YNAB app like I did, and see what passing your wealth on could look like. What would it cost? And more importantly, imagine how that money might set your people up for a better future. Now, this is where I sign off, but first, some people have commented asking for more clarity on my research, specifically sources. And to those people, I say, you are my favorite kinds of people, mwah, never change. Because you deserve more than a throwaway phrase like some studies say. What studies? Who made them? Where can I get my grubby little hands on those studies? So from now on, each sketchy advice video will end with a list of sources I referenced over some lovely B-roll set to relaxing music. So you can vibe out to some research transparency. Bye-bye.